Welcome back to Kahani Suno with Kabir and Sara. I'm Kabir, your host, quick but important. Every story on this podcast is original, written by Sara or by me. No AI, no borrowed plots, just two people who love storytelling. Writing for you. Please remember that. Now, today's story is one of my finest, a murder mystery, a thriller, a story about secrets, greed, patience, and love, and what happens when all four collide on a dark, rainy night. And if anyone is listening and thinking this would make a fantastic film, you're right, it would. But please talk to us before you do anything about it. Sara is at Sara at kahanisuno.com and I am at Kabir @kahanisuno.com. We are friendly unless you steal our stories. Then we are not. Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine the opening frame, a dark screen, the sound of rain, and then slowly the title appears in the blood red letters. Raaz, let the secret be secret. The clock had just struck midnight at January 1st, 2023. Across the city, people were celebrating. Fireworks lit up the sky. Champagne glasses clinked. Laughter echoed through the streets. The new year had arrived with all its promise, all its hope. But inside Vivek Malhotra's sprawling hilltop resort, the celebration had taken a darker turn. Picture Manoj Bajpayee in this role. Not the loud, aggressive Manoj Bajpayee of Gangs of Wasipur, but the quiet, controlled, deeply dangerous Manoj Bajpayee of Satya, the man who smiles with his mouth while his eyes are doing something else entirely. That is Vivek Malhotra. Vivek was not just any man. He was the kind of man who made other men nervous when he walked into a room. A self-made businessman worth a lot. Vivek had built an entire empire from nothing. Real estate, hospitality, construction. His name carried weight in boardrooms. But here is the thing about Vivek Malhotra that separated him from every other ambitious man in that world. He was, at his very core, an opportunist, and not the ordinary kind. Most opportunists have a filter, a line they will not cross, a door they will not open. They grab the good opportunities and let the bad ones pass. Vivek had no such filter. To Vivek, an opportunity was an opportunity. Good or bad, legal or illegal, moral or monstrous. If a door opened, any door, in any direction, Vivek would walk through it. This was, in fact, the secret of his success. While other businessmen deliberated, Vivek acted. While other men worried about consequences, Vivek was already 3 steps ahead, already extracting value, already moving on to the next thing. He had built his entire empire on this single ruthless principle that hesitation is the only true failure, and that the man who moves first, regardless of the direction, always wins. It had made him extraordinarily rich. It had also made him extraordinarily dangerous. Manoj Bajpayee can play this quality better than almost anyone. The specific kind of intelligence that has no moral compass attached to it. Not a man who chooses evil. A man for whom the category of evil simply does not exist. Everything is just opportunity. Manoj Bajpayee's eyes in a scene where he spots an advantage would tell you everything you need to know about Vivek Malhotra without a single word of dialogue. And expensive whiskey was exactly what Vivek had been drinking all night. This was not unusual. Vivek had always had a complicated relationship with alcohol. His friends called it a passion. His enemies called it a weakness. The truth, as it usually is, sat somewhere in between. On most nights, Vivek could handle it. He knew his limits. He was a controlled man, disciplined, calculated, always 3 steps ahead of everyone else. But tonight was New Year's Eve. Tonight, the rules did not apply. The party at the resort had been going on since 9 p.m. Vivek's inner circle was there. Business associates, politicians, socialites. People smiled at you when their mouths while watching you with sharp, calculating eyes. The music was loud. The drinks were flowing, and Vivek, loosened by the night and the whiskey, had been holding court. Laughing too loudly, speaking too freely, being more than he usually allowed himself to be in public. By the time the clock struck midnight, he had lost count of how many glasses he had consumed. By 1 a.m., most of the guests had gone home or retired to their rooms. By 2 a.m., the resort had gone quiet. And that was when Vivek found himself alone with Sneha. Now imagine Vidita Bagh in the role of Sneha Kapoor. If you have seen Vidita Bagh in Ek Je Chilo Raja, you know she carries a rare quality on screen. A quiet intensity, a warmth that feels completely real. She does not announce herself. She simply exists in a scene and makes everything around her more believable. That is exactly who Sneha was. Not a dramatic presence, just a real, vivid, thoroughly alive human being. And that is precisely what makes what happens to her so unbearable. Sneha Kapoor was 28 years old. She was Vivek's most trusted employee. Sharp, efficient, completely reliable. She has managed his schedules, his meetings, his personal finances, and occasionally his most sensitive personal problems. She knew more about Vivek Malhotra than almost anyone alive. She had taken the job 2 years earlier because it paid well, and because she was ambitious, and because she was very, very good at it. She had no idea that the man she worked for was capable of what he was capable of. Vidita Bagh in this quiet, early scenes, before everything happens, just being Sneha, alive, present, laughing at something across the room, checking her phone with a private smile, just that small, ordinary aliveness, so that when the screen goes dark, when Manoj Bajpayee is standing alone in that room and Vidita Bagh is gone, the audience feels it not as a plot point, but as a genuine loss, a real person gone. What exactly happened between Vivek and Sneha in those early morning hours of January 1st, 2023 would never be fully known to the outside world. What is known is this: an argument broke out, voices were raised, and in the chaos that followed, fueled by alcohol and rage and the particular madness that grips a man when he feels cornered, Sneha Kapoor was dead. This scene, imagine it shot in near silence. No dramatic music, no shouting, just Manoj Bajpayee standing in a dimly lit room, breathing hard, looking down, and Vidita Bagh, warm, real, alive Vidita Bagh, gone. The camera lingers on the empty room, on the overturned glass, on the stillness, on a phone screen lighting up on the table. An unsaved number calling. Nobody answers. Vivek stood over her body, breathing hard, the silence of the empty resort pressing down on him like a physical weight. He was drunk. but he was not stupid. And then, as it always did with Vivek Malhotra, the opportunist took over. The panic began to subside, and in its place, cold, clear calculation took over. Because of Vivek, even this terrible, unforgivable thing was simply a situation, a problem. And every problem has a solution if you are willing to look for it without flinching. Vivek looked at the body, he looked around the room, he looked at the clock on the wall, and he began to think. He had maybe 4 hours before the staff began arriving. The resort was in a semi-rural area on the outskirts of the city, surrounded on 3 sides by thick, dense forest that stretched for kilometers in every direction. Nobody had seen anything. The party guests were all gone. The security cameras, he knew every single one of them because he had installed every single one of them were under his control. He could do this. Vivek wrapped the body carefully, loaded it in the back of his personal vehicle, a black SUV with tinted windows, and drove deep into the forest. It took him almost 2 hours, working alone in the dark with only a torch and a shovel. But by 4:30, Sneha Kapoor had been buried in a remote clearing, so far from any road or any trail that it would take a miracle or inside knowledge for anyone to find her. He drove back to the resort, cleaned up, showered, changed his clothes. Then he sat down at his computer and began to work on the CCTV footage. Watch now. Manoj Bajpayee would play this scene not frantically, not desperately, but with terrifying focus. The way his fingers move across the keyboard, the way his jaw is set, a man solving a problem, not a man in crisis, a man at work. Because that is the most chilling thing about Vivek. He's not a monster who panics. He's an opportunist who adapts. And Manoj Bajpayee, better than almost any actor alive, knows how to show you a man thinking dangerous thoughts behind a perfectly calm face. This was where Vivek's true genius revealed itself. He did not simply delete the footage. That would have been suspicious. Instead, he carefully edited the recordings, replacing the relevant timestamps with earlier footages from the same cameras. To any investigator reviewing the tapes, it would appear that Vivek had been inside his resort all night, visible in the lobby, visible in the bar, visible in the corridors. A man in his own resort on New Year's Eve, doing exactly what you would expect a man in his own resort on a New Year's Eve to be doing. The alibi was airtight, or so he believed. When Sneha's disappearance was reported by her family 3 days later, when she failed to return home or answered the phone, the police investigation began almost immediately. Sneha was not a nobody. She worked for a prominent businessman. Her disappearance was unusual. The police took it very seriously. They came to Vivek, of course. He was her employer. He was the last known person to have seen her at the New Year's Eve party. Vivek met them calmly, dressed in an expensive shirt, offering them tea in the spotless office. He expressed appropriate concern. He cooperated fully. He provided access to the CCTV footage, the edited footage, and watched as the investigators reviewed it carefully and found nothing unusual. He was at the resort all night. His car had not moved. There was no evidence of any altercation. Sneha had left the party early as far as anyone could tell and simply vanished. The blood marks found near Vivek's car, a small smear that a forensic team noticed during their sweep of the resort grounds, were a moment of genuine tension. Vivek had cleaned thoroughly, but the blood has a way of hiding in cracks and crevices that the naked eye misses. But without a body, blood marks alone were not enough. The case stalled. Weeks passed, then months. The investigation remained open technically, but with nobody, no witnesses, no clear evidence of a crime, and an airtight alibi from the primary suspect, there was simply nowhere left for the police to go. The case went cold, and Vivek Malhotra went back to his life. 6 months had passed since that night. Vivek had, by all appearances, moved on completely. The parties continued, the business deals continued, the whiskey continued. If there was any guilt buried somewhere beneath the expensive suits and the easy laughter, it did not show. It was on one of these late nights, a Thursday in late July, a monsoon rains hammering the road, that Vivek was driving back from the city along the narrow road that wound through the forest toward his resort. The road was dark, the rain was heavy. Vivek's headlights cut through the downpour in two pale beams, illuminating nothing but wet tarmac and the blur of trees on either side. And then, just ahead, something made him brake hard. His SUV skidded slightly on the wet road before coming to a stop. Vivek leaned forward, squinting through the rain-streaked windshield. There was a car stopped in the middle of the road. A BMW. Expensive, dark colored. Its front end angled awkwardly as though it had stopped suddenly. The hazard lights were blinking weakly in the rain, and on the road in front of the BMW, in the full glare of its headlights, a man was lying in a pool of blood. The camera sees this the way Vivek sees it. Through a rainy washed windshield, the wipers beating back and forth, the scene coming in and out of clarity with each sweep, a body on the road, blood spreading dark and slow in the rainwater, and standing over it, frozen, still holding the door of the BMW open, a young man. Vivek got out of his car. The rain hit him immediately, heavy, warm, relentless. He walked slowly toward the scene, his eyes moving from the body on the ground to the young man standing over it. The man on the road was badly injured, hit with significant force, clearly from the BMW. His body lying at an angle that told you immediately that he had not walked away from this. He was breathing, just barely. But from the look of him, not for much longer. And the young man standing over him, well-dressed, expensive watch. The particular look of someone who has grown up never wanting for anything, was shaking, not from the rain, from something deeper. His hands were in his sides, opening and closing, opening and closing. His eyes fixed on the man on the ground with an expression of pure, paralyzed horror. He looked up when Vivek approached. His name was Arun Sharma. Rajkumar Rao in this moment, soaking wet, trembling, his eyes wide with particular terror of a man watching his entire future disintegrate in real time. Vivek looked at the body. He looked at Arun. He looked around at the empty road. No other cars, no lights in the distance. Nothing but rain and darkness and blinking hazards of the BMW. And the opportunist in him, the tireless, filter-free, always calculating engine that had built his entire empire, woke up. Watch Manoj Bajpayee's face in this moment. Watch how quickly the shock of what he's seeing transform into something else. Watch the eyes still. Watch the jaw set. Watch the precise, almost imperceptible moment when a man stops being a witness to a crisis and starts being a man with a plan. It takes less than 3 seconds. It always takes less than 3 seconds with Vivek. He looked at Arun. Who else has seen this? Asked quietly. Arun blinked. No one. Nobody has come. Nobody has stopped. Good, Vivek said. He looked at the body again, then back at Arun. How long has he been down? I don't know. 10 minutes, maybe 15. I didn't know what to do. I couldn't think. Vivek said, calm, completely calm. Now listen to me carefully. Nobody saw this. Nobody has to know this happened. Do you understand what I'm telling you? Arun stared at him, rain running down his face, blood on the road between them. You want to call the police? Vivek asked, almost gently. And your life is over. You want to call an ambulance? They ask questions. The police come anyway, and your life is still over. Or, he paused, letting the words sit. You listen to me. And this disappears. Arun's mouth opened, closed. I know this forest, Vivek said quietly. I know it better than anyone. I have done this before. That last sentence delivered in Manoj Bajpayee's voice with that particular stillness would make the audience go cold. I have done this before, said so casually, so matter-of-factly, the most damning 4 words in the film, and Vivek says them like a man mentioning that he knows a good restaurant. Arun looked at the man on the ground, then at Vivek. Put him in the car, Vivek said, and follow me. They drove deep into the forest, Vivek's SUV leading, Arun's BMW following, its headlights making 2 trembling columns of light through the rain and the trees. Deeper than the hiking trails, deeper than the marked paths, deeper than anyone with good intentions had any reason to go. Vivek stopped at a clearing he knew well. Together, they buried the body in the dark, wet forest floor. Somewhere not from where Sneha already lay. Vivek stopped at the clearing he knew well. Together, they buried. Vivek took Arun's phone number before they parted ways. He was calm, almost businesslike about it. The way man exchanges cards at a networking event. He told Arun he would be in touch. Arun drove away into the rain, his hands shaking on the wheel, his mind trying to process what had just happened. What Arun appeared not to realize in that moment of shock and desperate relief was that he had not just found a savior that night, he had found a predator. Or had he? The question flickers past. The story moves forward. The call came the next day. Vivek invited Arun to the resort. Arun came, nervous, grateful, carrying a bag with 20 lakh rupees in cash. He placed the bag on Vivek's desk with the quiet, defeated dignity of a man who has already accepted the terms of his imprisonment. Vivek counted the money, smiled, and then laughed. Not the polite social laugh of a businessman. A real laugh, loud, genuine, almost delighted. The laugh of a man who has just realized how much power he holds. The laugh of an opportunist who has found a stream of income he did not even go looking for. That the universe or fate or sheer dumb luck and simply placed in front of him on a rainy road. Manoj Bajpayee laughing in a scene like this would be one of the most unsettling things you have ever seen on a screen. not a villain's laugh, not a theatrical or exaggerated, just a real, genuine laugh. The laugh of a man who finds this genuinely funny. That is so much worse. And Rajkumar Rao sitting across from him, taking it, absorbing it, his jaw tight, his eyes carefully blank, a man who is swallowing something enormous. The audience reads it as fear, as humiliation, as the particular misery of a man trapped by his own terrible luck on a rainy night. They are not wrong, but they are not entirely right either. Arun left the resort that day and sat in his car in the parking lot for a long time before he could make himself drive. The second call came 6 weeks later, then a third, then a fourth. Each time, the demand was larger. Each time, Vivek's manner was more casual, more confident, more openly contemptuous. He was not pretending anymore that this was one-time arrangement. He was bleeding Arun dry, slowly and methodically, because this is what opportunities do when they find a resource. They extract from it until there is nothing left. He called Arun names, he kept him waiting, he laughed at him openly, the way a man laughs at something that cannot fight back. He had no idea that every rupee he extracted, every insult he delivered, every moment of contempt he showed was being noted, was being documented, was being added to a case that was being built against him, quietly, patiently, brick by brick. By the time the total had crossed 20 lakhs, Arun had gone to his father. And here is where the film truly begins. The camera finds a man sitting alone in a dimly lit study. Old teak furniture, framed photographs on the walls. The camera does not linger on them, does not let the audience read the faces in them, not yet. Just atmosphere, just darkness and quiet and the sound of a clock ticking somewhere in the room. His son has just finished speaking. The room is silent. And Amitabh Bachchan. Because who else could play this man? Who else in Indian cinema carries this particular combination of weight and stillness and barely contained fury? Amitabh Bachchan looks up slowly. Just imagine that moment. Just imagine those eyes. The audience sees a worried father, a powerful man whose son has got into serious trouble. They understand the scene completely. They understand nothing. Jai Shankar Sharma was 63 years old, and he had built a successful business empire by being a soft man. He listened to his son's full account. Every meeting at the resort, every demand, every insult, every rupee, without interruption, his face still and unreadable, his eyes sharp and cold behind the glasses. When Arun finished, there was a long silence. Then Jaishankar said, quietly, "Beta, you should have come to me sooner." He picked up his phone and began making calls. No shouting, no dramatics, no table thumping, just those 6 words spoken in Amitabh Bachchan's voice. And you would feel in that moment that something has been set in motion that cannot be stopped. That Vivek Malhotra, sitting in his resort right now, laughing, drinking, completely untouchable, does not yet know it. But his story is already over. He just has not been told yet. But why? This is the question the audience is not yet asking loudly enough. Why does Jai Shankar care this much? His son was at the wrong place at the wrong time on a rainy night and is being blackmailed because of it. Powerful fathers deal with their sons' problems all the time, quietly, efficiently, with money and lawyers. Why the phone calls in the middle of the night? Why the cold, contained fury behind the still face? Why does this feel like something more than a father protecting his son? The audience will not ask, not yet. The story is moving too fast, but the question is there, planted quietly like a seed in dark soil. The next morning, the Vivek's resort included Jaishankar for the first time. Vivek was visibly surprised to see the older man, but recovered quickly, offering him smoothest smile and his most expensive tea. He had heard of Jaishankar Sharma, of course, everyone in the business world, but Vivek was not intimidated. He was holding all the cards, or so he thought. Now the picture scene. Manoj Bajpayee and Amitabh Bachchan sitting across a table from each other. Two powerful men, two intelligent men, both of them fully aware that this is not a conversation, it is a chess match. The camera moves slowly between their faces. Jaishankar sat across Vivek and studied him the way a chess player studies a board, unhurriedly, looking not at the pieces but at the spaces between them. And he said very calmly, "I want this settled once and for all. What is your number?" Vivek leaned back in his chair. 1 crore, he said, "and you will never hear from me again." Jaishankar nodded slowly. "I'll need a day to consider." He stood up, buttoned his jacket, and walked out. Vivek watched him go, feeling something he had not felt in a long time, a faint, distant whisper of unease. There was something in the old man's eyes that he could not quite read, something that sat behind the politeness and the composure like a stone beneath still water. He pushed the feeling aside. Jaishankar returned the next day, but this time he did not come to negotiate. He came with information, but he did not lead with it, not yet. He sat down across Vivek, poured himself a glass of water from the jug on the table, unhurriedly, as though he were in his own home, and looked at Vivek for a long moment before speaking. Amitabh Bachchan in this moment, just sitting, just looking, just the weight of those eyes across the table would make the entire room feel smaller. Vivek would feel it, the audience would feel it, the particular quality that Amitabh Bachchan has always had, the ability to make silence feel like pressure. "Vivek," Jaishankar said finally, his voice almost gentle, "I have been in business for 40 years. I have sat across from ministers, from judges, from men who thought they were untouchable, and I have learned one thing above everything else." He set his glasses down carefully. "Money without security is worthless. You can pay a man today, he will be back tomorrow asking for more. We have been doing this dance for months now, and neither of us is closer to finishing it. You keep asking, we keep paying, and it never ends. It never ends because there is nothing to hold both the sides in place." He paused, letting that settle. "So I want to make you a real offer, a final offer, not 1 crore. 2 crores in cash, untraceable, delivered however you wish." He let the number sit in the room for a moment. 2 crores. Even Vivek, for all his wealth, for all his contempt, felt it, the weight of that number. But, Jaishankar continued, his voice dropping just slightly, in return, I need something from you. Not money, not promises. A secret. Your real secret. The one that is worth protecting. You give me that, something I can hold, something that keeps us equal. And this ends permanently, because then neither of us can move against the other. You have something on my son, I have something on you. And two men who know each other's deepest secrets do not go to the police. They go home. They live their lives, and they never speak of this ever again. He folded his hands on the table. 2 crore rupees and permanent silence, Vivek, in exchange for one secret. This is the offer. Amitabh Bachchan delivering this, leaning back, completely calm, the way a man looks when he is offering you something he already knows you cannot refuse, would make the audience lean forward in their seats, because it sounds so reasonable, it sounds almost generous. Most dangerous thing about it. Watch Manoj Bajpayee process this offer. Watch the opportunist do what he always does. Calculate, measure, test the edges of it. 2 crore rupees is real money. Permanent silence is what he has always wanted. And sharing a secret in exchange for being equally trapped, the logic is almost elegant. Almost. That alarm, that quiet, deep animal alarm that has kept him alive and free for 6 months is ringing again, softly, insistently. I appreciate the offer, Vivek said, his voice smooth, his smile easy. Genuinely, 2 crores is generous, and I respect the thinking behind it. He leaned back in his chair, spreading his hands lightly. But I am afraid I have no secrets to give you in return. I am a simple businessman, Jaishankar ji. I have built my life carefully and cleanly. There is nothing hiding underneath it. Nothing. Nothing worth 2 crores. Nothing worth anything. He smiled again, that warm, practiced, completely impenetrable smile. You are paying for silence that was never necessary, because there is nothing to be silent about. Jaishankar looked at him for a moment. That thin, patient smile did not waver, did not flicker, did not change by even a fraction. A simple businessman, he repeated quietly, almost to himself. Yes. He was silent for just a beat, one breath. 2, the clock on the wall ticking once, twice, and then, without changing his expression, without raising his voice, without any of the theatrical build-up that the moment seemed to demand, he said it. I know about the other body. And there it is, 6 words dropped into the room like something falling from a very great height. No warning, no preamble, just Amitabh Bachchan's voice, quiet and certain, and 6 words that change everything. The audience watches Vivek's face, watches the smooth, practiced, completely impenetrable smile hold for exactly 1 second too long. And then, just behind the eyes, where Manoj Bajpayee is doing things that most actors cannot do, something shifts, something cracks. Just slightly, just a moment, like a hairline fracture in a stone, just enough to see that it is not stone at all. The room went very quiet. Vivek's expression did not change, but something behind his eyes shifted, a subtle, dangerous movement, like the surface of water just before something large rises from the depths. I don't know what you're talking about, he said. Jai Shankar smiled, a thin, patient smile. Sneha Kapoor, your secretary. The police have been looking for her body for 6 months. They have never found it. But we both know why, don't we? The audience sits up. Sneha Kapoor. He knows about Sneha Kapoor. How? A father trying to extract his son from a blackmail situation? How does he know the name of Vivek's missing secretary? How does he know enough to say those words with that kind of certainty? Where did this information come from? And why does he say her name the way he says it? Not like a detail he uncovered in an investigation, but like a name he already knew. A name he had been carrying. The questions arrive fast, but before the audience can properly form them, Jai Shankar is already speaking again. The story keeps moving. The questions stay unanswered, buried, waiting. Amitabh Bachchan saying that name Sneha Kapoor in that quiet, deliberate voice, the way a man says the name of someone he knew, the audience will catch it and lose it in the same breath. That is exactly what the film wants. He leaned forward slightly. Tell me where she is buried. And the 2 crore I promised you, it is still on the table. You show me where Sneha is. We settle this once and for all. Amitabh Bachchan leaning forward in a scene like this, that slow, deliberate lean, those eyes never leaving the other man's face, would make the entire theater go silent. Something is happening here that the audience cannot fully see yet. They can feel it like pressure building behind a closed door. Vivek stared at him. The offer was back on the table. 2 crore rupees for pointing at a patch of ground. And the opportunist in him, that restless, filter-free, always calculating part of him, sat up and took notice. But something still held him back. Some deep animal instinct. A voice in the back of his mind that whispered, "Don't." For once in his life, the opportunist paused. "I need time," Vivek said. "Meet me tomorrow." That night, Vivek did not sleep. He paced his room at the resort, thinking through every angle, every possibility, every risk. And Jai Shankar knew about Sneha. That changed everything. That changed the entire game. How did he know? How much did he know? And if he went to the police with what he had, the name, the connection, the blood marks that had never been fully explained, would it be enough? Maybe not. The body had never been found. The alibi is still solid. Blood marks alone were not enough. They had already established that 6 months ago. By morning, he had made his decision. He will not reveal the location. He would go to the final meeting, hold his ground, and use the dash cam footage from that rainy night as his weapon. He had everything recorded, the BMW, the body, the Arun standing over it, all of it captured, clean and clear. If Jai Shankar pushed, he would push back harder. He was, he told himself, still holding all his cards. The opportunist had made his choice. He had chosen wrong. The final meeting was held at Vivek's resort, late in the afternoon. Vivek arrived first. He sat at the head of the table, composed and confident, his best suit, his best watch. When Jai Shankar and Arun walked in, he greeted them with a smile. But Jai Shankar's face was different today. Calmer, more settled, like a man who had already won and simply waiting for the other side to realize it. Watch Amitabh Bachchan walk into a room in this scene. That unhurried walk, that complete, total stillness. The way he sits down without looking around, without checking the room, because he already knows everything in it. Vivek sees it too, and for the first time, something in his chest tightens. A feeling he cannot name, a feeling that whispers, something is wrong. Something has always been wrong. He just cannot find it. The negotiation was brief. Vivek said he would not reveal the body's location. He wanted his 1 crore and permanent silence. And if they refused, he had the dash cam footage. He had Arun. He had everything. And then Jai Shankar spoke. This is the scene that the entire film has been building toward. Imagine Amitabh Bachchan's voice, that deep, measured, unhurried voice filling the room. Not raised, not angry, just certain. The way judge's voice is certain when he reads a verdict. The way a man speaks when he has nothing left to prove and everything already decided. Close your eyes and just hear it. Jai Shankar said, "Then I won't give you a single rupee." He leaned back in his chair, completely unhurried, the way a man leans back when he already knows how the conversation ends. Let me tell you what I am going to do instead. That 2 crore I was going to hand to you, I am going to give it to the right people, the kind of people who can make an investigation disappear or reappear, depending on what you need. 2 crores is a lot of money, Vivek. You, of all the people, should know what 2 crores can buy in this city. He glanced at Arun briefly, just a flicker, and then back at Vivek. My son's involvement in that incident, that night in the forest, the body, all of it, 2 crore makes that go away completely. Witnesses forget, evidence gets misplaced, files get thinner. I have done business in this country for 40 years. I know exactly how it works. He folded his hands calmly on the table. But here's what is interesting. Vivek, while I am using that money to protect my son, what happens to you? Because you were there that night too. You helped move that body. You drove ahead and showed the way into the forest. You were not a witness. You were a participant. And unlike my son, you will not have 2 crores working in your favor. You will have nothing, no protection, no deal. Just your name sitting inside a police file, connected to a body disposal, with no one left to speak for you. He paused, letting the silence do its work. So you see the position you're in? You get no money, my son walks free, and you, a man already under suspicion for a murder case that never closed, and suddenly find yourself linked to a second body. How do you think that looks? How do you think that investigation goes? And how long before someone starts pulling on that thread and finds everything else attached to it? Picture Manoj Bajpayee's face right now. Watch the confidence drain away slowly like water from a cracked glass. Watch him realize, truly realize, perhaps for the first time, that he's not the smartest man in the room. That the opportunist, the man who built his entire life on seeing angles that others missed, and has been completely, utterly, devastatingly outmaneuvered. Not just today, from the very beginning. Manoj Bajpayee can play this specific terrible moment of reckoning better than anyone alive. Jai Shankar stood up slowly, buttoned his jacket, and looked at Vivek one final time. You thought you were holding all the cards, but you were holding our cards for us. And now you're simply taking them back. He paused at the door. Call the police right now. If you'd like, I will wait. Vivek looked at the two men. He looked at Jaishankar's steady, unreadable eyes. He looked at Arun, who was no longer trembling, no longer the panicking young man from the rainy night of the road. Arun was sitting quietly, almost peacefully, with his hands folded in his lap. Rajkumar Rao, in this moment, still composed, watching Vivek with something that is not quite satisfaction and not quite sadness. Something deeper, something older. The audience sees a young man who has finally turned the tables on the man who was blackmailing him. That is what they see. That is not all there is. Something cold moved through Vivek's chest. Why is Arun so calm? The opportunist looked from the angle, looked for the door, looked for the way through. There was none. Fine, Vivek said, his voice flat. I'll take you to the body. They drove into the forest in 2 cars. Vivek leading, Jaishankar and Arun following. The forest was different in the daylight than it was in the dark. Quieter, more peaceful. The kind of place where if you did not know what was buried beneath the leaves and the soil, you might almost find it beautiful. Rajkumar Rao in the passenger seat, looking out at the trees, his expression unreadable, his hands very still in his lap. The audience does not know what to make of it. They file it away. They keep watching Vivek. Vivek stopped at the clearing. He got out of the car and stood for a moment, looking at the ground. There was nothing to mark the spot. No stone, no stick, no visible disturbance. Just forest floor, just earth. He pointed. There. Jaishankar turned to Arun and nodded. Arun took a shovel from the back of his car. He had come prepared and began to dig. Vivek watched with his arms crossed, already thinking about what came next. The money, the silence, the end of this particular problem. The opportunist, even now, was calculating the next move. Arun dug and dug and dug, and then stopped. He looked up at his father. Jaishankar looked back at him. The body was there, exactly where Vivek had said it would be. Jaishankar stood at the edge of the hole for a long moment, looking down, his face unreadable, his hands clasped behind his back. The kind of stillness that comes not from peace but from discipline, from a man who has trained himself over many long months not to show what he is feeling. Amitabh Bachchan, in this moment, standing at the edge of the hole, looking down, would not need a single word of dialogue. Just that face, just those eyes, and the audience watching him would feel something shift in the room, something they cannot name yet, a weight, a grief that does not quite fit. The shape of a businessman protecting his son from blackmail. They will understand later, not yet. Jaishankar straightened. He turned to Arun and gave a single, small nod. Arun reached into the back of the car and brought out a bag. He walked to where Vivek was standing and placed it on the ground between them. 2 crores, Arun said quietly, as agreed. Cash, untraceable. Vivek looked at the bag, then at Arun, then at Jaishankar. Watch Manoj Bajpayee in this moment. Watch the opportunist receive exactly what the opportunist came for. The money is real. The deal appears to be real. And yet something in the air of this clearing, something in the way Jaishankar is standing, something in the way Arun will not quite meet his eyes, is making The hairs on the back of Vivek's neck stand up. He cannot identify it. He tells himself it's nothing. Vivek reached down and picked up the bag, felt the weight of it, nodded. "We are done then," he said. "All of us finished. Nobody speaks of any of this again." Jaishankar looked at him for a long moment. Raaz hi rehna chahiye, he said quietly. "Let the secret be secret." He turned and walked back to his car. Arun followed. Vivek stood alone in the clearing for a moment, the bag in his hand, the forest quiet around him. He told himself it was over. He told himself he had won. He drove back to the resort, feeling, for the first time in months, something close to relief. Jaishankar has not paid Vivek. He had handed him a rope, and Vivek, the opportunist, the man who never hesitated, the man who walked through every door that opened, had taken it with both hands. Amitabh Bachchan driving away from that clearing, his son beside him, the forest receding in the rear view, his face in the mirror for just a moment. Just one frame would tell you everything. Not satisfaction, not triumph. Something quieter than that. Something that looks almost like exhaustion. The exhaustion of a man who has been carrying something very heavy for a very long time and has finally been able to set it down. The audience still does not fully understand what they are seeing. They will. 1 week later, the police arrived at Vivek's resort. And here, Pankaj Tripathi enters the story. Think about Pankaj Tripathi in this role. The police inspector, not a dramatic, shouting inspector, not a hero cop, just a quiet, intelligent, deeply experienced man who has seen everything and is surprised by nothing. Pankaj Tripathi brings a kind of grounded, unhurried authority to every role he plays. The kind of man who asks the most dangerous questions in the most casual voice. As this inspector, he would be perfect, utterly, completely perfect. The police inspector who walked into Vivek's office that morning laid a folder on his desk without a word. Inside were photographs, evidence reports, a forensic analysis of the blood marks found near Vivek's car, blood that matches Sneha Kapoor's DNA, and a statement signed and notarized from Jaishankar Sharma, detailing everything he knew, including the location of the body, which the police had already recovered. Vivek's face went wide. He did the only thing he could think to do. He called Arun. The phone rang twice. Then Arun picked up. "You told them?" Vivek said, his voice barely controlled. "We had a deal. You told them everything?" There was a brief pause on the other end of the line. Then Arun said very quietly, "Yes, we did. I have the dash cam footage," Vivek said, his voice rising now, the control slipping completely. "I have everything from that night, the BMW, the body on the road, you standing over him, all of it recorded, clear, undeniable. I will destroy you, both of you." Another pause. "Bring it to the police station," Arun said. "We'll be waiting." Rajkumar Rao's voice on that phone call, those 3 words, spoken with quietness that carries the weight of everything the audience does not yet know, would land like a closing door. Something in his voice, something final, something that is not quite anger, not quite grief, and not quite relief. The audience will feel it. They will not be able to name it. Not yet. Vivek arrived at the police station with this dash cam footage loaded on a tablet. He was angry, and underneath the anger, he was afraid. But the opportunist in him was still moving, still fighting, still looking for the angle. He showed the inspector the footage, the rainy night, the narrow road, the BMW stopped in the middle of it, the body lying in a pool of blood, in the glare of headlights, Arun standing over it, frozen, clear, undeniable, damning. Take them to where they buried the body, Vivek told the inspector. It's all there. I can show you. Watch Pankaj Tripathi's face here, that slight tilt of the head, that patient, almost gentle expression of a man who knows exactly where this is going and simply allowing it to arrive at its own pace. He would not smirk, he would not look smug, he would just wait, because Pankaj Tripathi understands that the most powerful thing a man in authority can do is simply be still and let the truth do the work. They drove out of the forest. Vivek led them to the spot where he and Arun had buried the man from the road. The constable dug and found nothing. Not a body, not remains, not blood. Just a rough dummy. A bundle of cloth and weighted material, carefully constructed to feel like a body when carried, to look like a body lying broken on a rainy soaked road in the dark. Vivek stood at the edge of the empty hole, staring down, his mind slowly coming apart at the seams. That's not possible, he said. I was there. I saw the body. I helped move it. I know what I did. The inspector said nothing. It's Arun. He came back, he moved everything, he set this whole thing up. He, Mr. Malhotra, the inspector said quietly, and here Pankaj Tripathi's voice saying this, the calm, almost kind voice and voice of a man delivering the final line of a very long story. There was no accident victim. The rain that night had been real. The road had been real. The BMW had been real. But the man lying in the pool of blood in the headlights, the man Vivek had seen and immediately began calculating how to exploit, had not been dying. He had been acting. Back to the police station with Vivek sitting across the inspector in an interrogation room. Arun and Jaishankar told the whole story. The accident had been staged. All of it. The rainy night, the BMW angled across the road, the figure lying broken in the headlights, the panicking young man standing over him had been carefully, meticulously orchestrated by Jaishankar Sharma over weeks of planning, with the help of private investigators, true trusted employees, and one actor who was very good at lying very still in the rain. And now, why? Why go to all this trouble? Why not simply bring what you knew to us? Jaishankar is quiet for a long time, and then he says, because the police had already investigated and he had already walked free, and only way to bring him back, the only way to make a man like Vivek Malhotra reveal what he had hidden was to make him believe he had power over someone, to let him walk through the door himself, to let the opportunist do what opportunists always do. And the body, the inspector asks, Sneha Kapoor, how did you know about her? Jaishankar looks at his son, and Arun, Rajkumar Rao, his voice very steady, very quiet, says, because Sneha was my fiancée. The room goes completely silent. The entire film, every single scene, every single moment the audience had watched rearranges itself in their minds in an instant. Sneha Kapoor had not just been Vivek's secretary. She had been the woman Arun was going to marry, the woman whose wedding lehenga had already been chosen, the woman Arun had been quietly, devastatingly searching for since New Year's Day, not through the police, not through lawyers, but through his father's investigators. And Jaishankar, the calm, cold, utterly unshakable man sitting across from the inspector, had built the entire plan for one reason and one reason only, not to protect his son from blackmail, to bring Sneha home, Because without the body, there was no case. Without the case, there was no justice. And without justice, the man who had killed his son's fiancée would go on living, would go on laughing, would go on pouring expensive whiskey at his hilltop resort and calling it a good life. Jaishankar has spent 6 months ensuring that would not happen. The staged accident was designed to do one specific thing: give Vivek power over Arun, because Jaishankar understood better than anyone what kind of man Vivek was. He was an opportunist, a man who could not resist leverage, a man could not walk away from a situation that offered him control over someone else, regardless of whether that situation was good or bad, legal or illegal, safe or dangerous. So, Jaishankar created the situation. He put the BMW on road. He put the actor in the headlights. He sent Arun to stand over the body in the rain at exactly the right time on exactly the right road. And Vivek, true to his nature, true to every instinct that had defined his entire life, had driven around the corner and seen an opportunity and grabbed it. Every move Vivek had made, every demand, every insult, every carefully calculated opportunistic decision had been exactly what Jaishankar needed him to make. The opportunist had been beaten by a man who understood him completely, who had studied him, who had built a trap using the one thing that could never be taken away from Vivek Malhotra: his own nature. Pankaj Tripathi closing the folder on the desk, that small, quiet, final gesture, the punctuation mark on the entire story. No speech, no declaration, just a folder closing. Case solved. Raaz को राज ही रखना चाहिए था. A secret should have remained a secret, but truth never stays buried. That was Raaz, Let the Secret Be Secret, written by me, Kabir, in 2023. I hope it stayed with you. Every story on Kahani Suno is original, written by Sarah or by me. No AI, no shortcuts, just honest storytelling, made with love for you. If you are in the film or television world and this story sparked something, reach out. We would love that conversation. Sarah at kahanisuno.com, Kabir at kahanisuno.com. Thank you for listening. मैं हूं कबीर और ये थी राज.